Welcome back to Big Fish in the Middle Kingdom, part of the Migration Media Network. I'm Brendan Davis, your host, and this week's guest is Christiana Ju. Now, she has taken an unusual path on the way to becoming the creator of Yayo, which is a plant-based, non-dairy frozen yogurt. You got that? It's actually one of my new favorite things, I have to say. I don't do advertorial shows, so I don't want to oversell this, but I don't really have to. If you are in China and you get a chance to taste this, you'll know what I mean. Christiana is a Kiwi, a New Zealander of Chinese ancestry, and she first moved here to apply her kind of unique perspective as this cross-cultural kid to the marketing and tourism industry. But she had this pretty major health scare she talks about in the interview, and a lack of appropriate local food options to deal with her challenges is what really steered her towards this cool journey that she is now on today with her company Marvelous Foods. And as an omnivore myself, I will say that I especially respect that she promotes plant-based foods mostly as a healthy addition to any diet and not from kind of a overarching agenda point of view. So I'm very eager to taste whatever new flavors of Yayo she whips up next. She brought me a sample and it was really awesome, and then she sent some more, and I'm going to subscribe. So anyway, enough of a sales job. It's pretty great. If you're in China, specifically in Beijing, there is a contact for the WeChat official account. You can learn more. If you're outside of China, you're just enjoying an interview with a very interesting person. I want to mention one thing before we get into the rest of this, which is that my big news for this week, I teased it a little bit last week. My news last week, of course, is about my complete podcasting course is now available on Udemy. So if you want to learn how to make a podcast of your own, or you want to maybe fill in some learning gaps if you're self-taught on something you're doing now, you can get it. There is always a discount available if you follow the links in the show notes. You can always get it at a really cheap sale price from me directly via coupon that I would give you. And otherwise, though, my big news is that I wanted to do a second show for a long time. Now, I have other show ideas, but I'm specifically saying I want to do a second episode of Big Fish in the Middle Kingdom every week. There's a little bit of a bandwidth issue. I'm busy doing other things, actually, earning a living and stuff. And also, it's just really hard to consistently book that many full interviews with new guests on such a regular basis, and to do the editing job that's required. Sometimes it's very easy, but still, you have to, it takes a long time to do that. So what I've decided to do, though, is come up with a supplemental show, and I'm still going to call it Big Fish in the Middle Kingdom, but I'm giving it this nickname, and for now, I think I have been convinced by my buddy Mike Shaw to go with one of the ones that was thrown out there, which is the Big Fish side dish every week. And the basic idea is that it's someone who has been on the show before. It's a returning champion, and it's a totally unedited hot take on what's going on with them. And it's going to be people who have got something interesting going on. And again, I'm going to keep it more away from the promo-y kind of feel, although occasionally that may play into it. But the point of it is to just really catch up with somebody who I've gotten to know through the show, or who I've gotten to introduce you to through the show. And sometimes it's just going to be general chat about something fun that's on our minds. That one will be more topical. That's going to be much more of a really free-form conversation with me and someone else. And I don't want to try to control it too much. And I've got several people who are already lined up to do this. We just have to get the recording synced up. This week has been crazy because I've been delivering this documentary project that I directed and edited. So I haven't had time to do the first one yet, but I'm looking like next week I'm going to start dropping that on Friday. So this show will continue to come out on Wednesday evening, not always as late as this one is this week, but I'm looking to do a show Wednesday, and then again on Friday we'll have the Big Fish side dish. So I hope you check that out. Now please enjoy my interview with Christiana Ju. Well, I am glad to be here today with Christiana Ju. Did I say your name right?
You did indeed.
Fantastic. Well, my traditional first question is, please tell us the short version of who you are, where you're from, and for you, why China, and then we'll get into the details of all of that.
Okay. Well, my name is Christiana Ju. In English, in Chinese it's Zhu Jiahui. I am from home for me is Auckland, New Zealand, so that's where my family is and where I grew up. I am, I guess, a bicultural bridge builder, I would say that I am. Also, I'm an entrepreneur, and my trade, I'm a marketer and PR kind of person by trade. I had worked in that industry for about 8 years before I actually eventually started my own business. And why China? Well, the geographical gravity of the world, I guess. Being Chinese, being bilingual, bicultural, it kind of drew me over here for career purposes. So yeah, 4 years later, I'm still here.
Fantastic. And so, because this is audio and not video, I mean, your name kind of tips it.
Yes.
I mean, you have a nice Kiwi lilt in your accent, but you're ethnically Chinese.
Correct.
So you're like a bicultural person.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah.
Nice. And so, what was we were talking, of course, before we got started to get to know each other a little bit more. And you've also just been on my friend and colleague Mike Shaw's show, Migratory Patterns, which does have a different focus than my show. So there may be a 5% of overlap, but it'll be very different, I think, overall. So if some people have also listened to Mike's show, a little bit of this might be redundant. But where were you born? I think that's kind of an interesting story. You mentioned that you're really from like Auckland, etc., but you were born here, right?
Yeah. So I was actually born in Guangzhou, in the south, and it's a funny one. This one is an interesting kind of thing to examine about identity. So my father went to study in Auckland University in the 80s. He was amongst one of the first kind of wave of academics, if you will, to be able to get these great government scholarship exchanges overseas and stuff like that. And my older sister was actually born in Auckland. When I examine our cultural kind of identity profile, I would say that we're pretty much the same. We're, fluent in English and Mandarin and a bit of Cantonese as well, and kind of a bit amphibious between the two cultures. However, I happened to be born in Guangzhou when the family were visiting for a few years, and then we went back to New Zealand when I was about 5, and she happened to be born in New Zealand. But it does affect the way that we are viewed in both places, actually. Yeah, and I would say actually more in China.
Just trying to claim you more because you can tell them, hey, I was born here.
Well, yeah, in one way. Or, the benefit of being kind of amphibious, as I said.
I like that. That's good. I like that.
The difference, the good thing about that is, I can fit in here and be incognito when I want to, or I can also, play up the international experience, Lawai card in a way. But then they'll always ask, but where were you born?
Right.
Because it seems like that is a big
That's
key.
the deciding
where
factor.
Were you born? Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what happened in between or, how you identify or how you feel, but seems to be a claim.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Very nice. And so tell me a bit about, let's jump way ahead and let's talk a bit about your company and what you're doing now, and then let's kind of backfill to get you from there to here, because I think it's interesting to know what you're doing, and then we'll talk about all these other interesting things. We have a lot of things to talk about.
Great, excellent. Well, my company is called Marvelous Foods, and we strive to create plant-based kind of super foods, if you will, alternative replacements for meat and animal products. Our most well-known product actually is Yayo coconut yogurt, which is China's first coconut or dairy-free yogurt brand. And I started that actually for my own personal needs. So when I came to China about 4 years ago, I suffered a lot of health issues, and then realized that there's a real lack of allergen-friendly foods in the market here. And I created the yogurt first to heal my own gut. I had some serious kind of digestive issues, which led to skin issues, which also led to fatigue, and it all kind of starts from the foundation of the gut. So so I needed to heal my own gut, and then I kind of went from there. People liked the product, and then I thought about that I can create value in this community by bringing out that product. So I kind of went down that rabbit hole, and then eventually it expanded to the Marvelous Foods concept, because I want to create more than just this one product that is inclusive and allergen friendly and also environmentally friendly, being vegan, but I wanted to create a suite of products, including potentially in the future products lines like ice creams, cheeses, even plant-based meats or protein kind of alternatives, and stuff like that. So yeah, that's what I do.
Very nice. And, as we talked about beforehand, this is not an advertorial sort of show, but you were kind enough to bring me a sample, and wow, it is good. It is good. I mean, we might have to talk. I might be willing to let you sponsor me to send me a bunch of this stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. That was maybe the Chinese part of me. You don't go somewhere empty-handed. You always have to bring
Is that not a Kiwi trait? Well, my Kiwi friends will bring beer.
Yeah, true. Beer. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. But given it's in the morning, I thought beer was probably not quite appropriate.
Well, that's true. It's a little early.
Yeah.
Very nice. So you have the background in marketing, and so you went to school, you were telling me, there in New Zealand. What drew you to that line of work in general, and marketing and telling stories? And I think telling your story is a fundamental part of this.
Yeah, absolutely. So I grew up, as I said, in a bicultural kind of environment. As a child, you just want to fit in, and it was very confusing. Like, my mum would be very strict. In retrospect, I'm thankful, and she said I would be, although at the time I definitely didn't. There were a lot of tears. I didn't think so.
Right.
But she would speak to me only in Chinese at home, even when my friends were over. So she would speak to them in English and then to me in Chinese.
To make sure that you learned it, or was it also keeping you in check with your cultural identity?
Correct, everything. Yeah. I mean, we were brought to all these kind of cultural shows. Whenever any acrobat troupe was in town, we would go. She kind of had us join the local kung fu club, and we learned to do like lion dancing and also kung fu exercises and stuff like that. Which, I mean, that was also quite fun. But as a result, kind of in my earlier years, I was very confused and I wanted to kind of fight my culture a little bit. And so really delved into kind of language. I guess it's generally something that I enjoy. I just happen to be in New Zealand in an English-speaking environment where, the language is English, and then I delved into kind of creative writing, and then also, kind of getting in touch with my I guess wordsmithery in English, so I decided to study PR and journalism because I wanted to kind of continue to craft that storytelling side. Also, actually, I always wanted I always had an entrepreneurial spark, and I always knew that I wanted to start my own business eventually. And I thought that storytelling was very core to that. I think that was why I eventually chose that too, because I felt like that path made sense.
And so when you came here, were you, I know that you were mentioning you were working with the tourism boards there in New Zealand, right? And then that was kind of your initial entree to China. And when looking, what led you kind of back to China in a way? Yeah,
so it was really funny. I was studying PR and journalism and did my exchange in the UK, and was on track to kind of maybe join some PR well, like everyone else, some sort of agency.
Sure.
When I was I'd always been like kind of a bit of an A-type when I was at school, so I also went for the things like student rep on the kind of Auckland PR committee and that sort of thing. And I thought, okay, I'm on track to kind of, go on that route, go on the agency route. But then the first job that I got, and it came out of an internship that I got in my final year, was with Tourism New Zealand, to kind of be groomed to be a specialist in the Asian markets because I spoke Chinese.
Right.
So, of course, the PR skills and all of that was a prerequisite, but actually what made me stand out in the end was my Chinese cultural and language abilities. So, yeah.
Well, I think that's very smart, and it's analogous to something I have also taught filmmaking and production a lot in LA as well as some here, and something that I would always tell acting students especially was find what it is that's unique about you and play that up. I mean, let it be a strength. I mean, because that's, trying to compete from a sense of, oh, well, I'm better at these general skills than the next person. Okay, that's fine, but what differentiates you? Use that stuff to your advantage, and I think you've done that really, really well.
Thank you.
From what I can tell and what you've told me.
Yeah.
in terms of coming to China, and did you get were you working for the New Zealand companies here in China, basically?
So I wasn't based in China when I first started dealing with China in business. So I was based in New Zealand in our Auckland office dealing with our team in Shanghai. And I would be dealing with journalists and production companies and stuff like that, getting them to come to New Zealand and kind of film our attractive things from a Chinese lens, actually. So finding those angles and kind of doing it using the bridge power.
Well, I'm interested.
Skill that I had.
What are some of those differentiators? What are some of those things that you helped? How did you help connect some of those dots and transform some of the thinking both ways?
One thing is. This is really an interesting question. I haven't actually had to talk about this.
It's okay. Just find your way through it.
Yeah, for a while. But I think, for example, I was in charge of the China market, and in comparison to, say, the German market, I think the journalists and production companies that I was working for wanted more help to kind of explain some cultural things, and then also find themes that they want to fit around things. So like themes of romance, like this, we want to do like a romance route, or we want to do like a mother and daughter family route. But it's all very much about pegging it on themes so that they can tell a story. Whereas some of the kind of, I guess, the German or British journalists, they would come not with necessarily theme in mind, but they'd want to go to certain places and then they want to find the story when they come there. I think, both ways have merits, because with the Chinese side, they know that their audience, will want to largely read things that they understand quickly, and then they can add some other extra things where they can, learn something new. Even I can draw parallels to the education system, maybe, but this is also my own. And
that's fine.
Theory.
But I think you're uniquely qualified to offer a valid opinion on this, and this is an interesting thing to explore.
Thanks. But I mean, for example, with art in China, people are taught skills rather than creativity.
Right.
So they are taught to color things in the lines a certain way, and this kind of gets kids to grow up to think that things should be in certain kind of ways or boxes for it to be comfortable. It's not that they don't want to be challenged. It's just the depth to which and pace at which they can be challenged. Where they have a point where they feel comfortable is just different.
Right.
Yeah. Whereas I think. I had to sometimes help my other colleagues with other markets, and I remember this one time where I had a German journalist who, with the Chinese journalists and kind of crews, I would quite often follow them the whole way, or hire a guide to follow them the whole way and just be there and make sure, everything's all smooth. With the German journalist, she didn't want me to even book a car. She just said, tell me where are some good places, give me some context for the interviews, and I'll just do everything myself.
Interesting.
Yeah, because they don't want to get affected maybe by by the PR.
They want to form their own opinion, and the Chinese wanted more of a theme and a story kind of laid out, and then they could explore within that framework.
Correct.
What do you think that is? I mean, then again, with the understanding this is just your opinion, quote unquote. But I respect it to ask. I mean, what do you think that is about wanting that kind of story, emotional context kind of laid out a bit?
I think they need to understand how they're going to sell it as well. So,
okay, well that makes sense.
Yeah. So I think they need kind of that sort of angle for that. And the other thing is, I guess maybe it's that. I mean, and the German was only one, so I mean, maybe I'm generalizing too. But on the Chinese side, maybe they just had very packed schedules, and they wanted to make sure that they came back with exactly enough content that could fill what they needed to fill.
So you don't think it spoke to the Chinese soul specifically because that was just a way of conveniently interpreting the unknown.
But
and being able
also,
to sell it.
correct. But also, it's also the way that the industry works as well, right? I mean, it all kind of fits together because, they're expected to fill these things that fit these sort of certain categories. I mean, of course, Chinese media is also censored, so they've got to make sure that everything goes through smoothly, fits their readers well, fits their publication well.
Yes.
Then they have these themes and things that work. And then the other thing is flexibility too, because in China everything's so flexible, right? So you have these plans and you have these themes and you have them there, but then when they come and they want something and they want to change it, you change it. Whereas I think even with business meetings, right? You'll know with business dealings, like you can schedule a meeting.
I'm acquainted.
Yeah,
I'm acquainted with the concept.
Yeah, and kind of other places you can maybe schedule a meeting 2 months in advance, and in China, that you try to do that, they just laugh you out the door. They're like, I don't know what's happening in 2 months. Like
exactly, people laugh at me talking about booking. Fly international, got to book that ticket. I'm like, but when are you leaving? You're not leaving. You mean you're not leaving tomorrow afternoon? Well, it's too early to book it.
Yeah, exactly.
Crazy.
Yeah. So it's like that too. So they expect, and I think that's why they want you to be there with them.
So that you can respond on the fly.
Things, exactly. Because I can
and pivot, as we like to say in the West.
Because for them, they see that I'm an authority.
You can talk to them.
I can open doors. I can make things happen that they want to happen. Whereas it's and that's very much in line with the culture here.
That makes sense. Mm-hmm. Now, so let's transition. How did you go from there to what has become your current iteration?
It seems like a big pivot, doesn't it?
It does. It does. Because that was fairly present tense as you're I think I put you back into like follow the flag mode or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you're a bit removed from that now. How did you go from there to here?
Yeah. So I mean, as I said, I always kind of saw my strength as bridging, and I always had a passion for providing value in the community that I'm in, and true value. So I came to China initially because I felt like I needed, as I was being groomed to become a China-Asia expert, I needed to have some ground time here. I needed to live here to understand really what the consumers liked, how they like to be communicated to, what were the kind of marketing trigger buttons and all of that. And then also I was really seeing, this was in 2014, that there was huge growth in visitor numbers from China. At the time, I think Chinese visitors had crept up to third place from fifth place within the space of like 3 years or something like that. And but then there were just the kind of product innovation and service and stuff wasn't completely calibrated to this new type of client. And I wanted to come to China to get these insights so that I could bring it back to New Zealand, perhaps to either consult or start my own business in tourism. And so I got a 1-year contract with a great sustainable travel company in China called Wild China. And I learned a lot, but during that process, my body really suffered. So I had a lot of kind of, as I mentioned before, health problems stemming from the gut, and it turned into massive eczema and skin problems, and I was tired and run down and all of that. And then I had to really take a step back and look at what I was doing and what was important. And then I realized that, health is definitely the foundation. And there's really a lack of food here, good kind of choices of allergen-friendly food and clean and safe and health, like nutritious food. So that's kind of what inspired me or drove me to pivot, because I thought I could add more value. See travel as something where you can touch a lot of people, so we can build understanding, but only as a certain kind of level of people that can do the traveling.
You can do that sort of travel to New Zealand. It's a nice place, but it's far and it's kind of pricey and et cetera. But
food is something people need to have every day. It's part of in Maslow's hierarchy on the bottom.
Yes. Yeah, exactly, right.
It's the foundation.
Food safety, security,
Yeah, correct. So I thought, this is where I can really add value. This is where I can take, for example, the coconut yogurt, our first product, something really popular in New Zealand, something that's really delicious and can help solve some of these health issues for people who need it, and actually it's just delicious for everyone else as well.
It's really great. It's really great. I have as we said before, I'm kind of I'm really an omnivore.
Yeah.
But it's fantastic.
Thank you.
And I'll eat as much as I can get my hands on.
Thank you. Yeah. So I thought, I can use that kind of bridging way to kind of think about nutrition and bring that. Because also now there's a huge opportunity in China with the growing middle class wanting to upgrade their lifestyles, wanting to be healthier, wanting to have more options and kind of premium healthy food products. And so to service that market, that's what we're here to do.
Nice, but and I like how it's obviously started with a personal need. You were solving a very personal issue, and something that I thought was also interesting in our kind of pregame chat was. I hope I'm not outing you, but you're actually not like a vegan. But you obviously you're making these plant-based foods.
Yeah.
For the reasons you stated. I mean, sort of talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't think that vegan food is just for vegans. I think plant-based food is for everyone, and it's something that we should all have more of in our diet. I mean, there's a lot of studies and out there about kind of the importance of limiting some of the animal foods, like especially dairy and that sort of thing, and it just. I believe that we should have choices, that people who are omnivores, that's great, but they should all have the choice as well to have delicious plant-based foods. And I'm very passionate to show, because I am an omnivore, but kind of transitioning vegan, but to show that we can have these products and make it convenient. I think there's just a lack of choice here, especially in China. That's because there's also a lack of kind of companies really seeing an opportunity in this space. Whereas it's growing in the US,
right,
and New Zealand, actually all around Europe too.
It's interesting because here things have to. It's hard to get people to like, the big companies are interested in things that have massive scale.
Correct.
And so really finding things that are more niche, such as this, is up to the entrepreneur and the small business person.
Correct.
To fill. So it's someone like you who's going to do it and be a success, because the large companies, you're not going to convert a nation of people to being plant-based, but you're going to being able to introduce it to a growing number of people as part of their diet I think it's a great goal, and it's also obviously very achievable, but it is a grassroots effort. What's it like? Because you're kind of climbing an uphill battle here.
It's tough. Yeah, it's I mean, as you say, the big companies don't look into this unless they see a big demand, and so as a result, even from a regulation point of view, it's hard to navigate these particular products that we're producing. If it doesn't have a national standard, we have to make it, and that requires
like filing paperwork
time,
and doing studies, probably
money, all of that, and then also with our artisanal scale right now, we're trying to get to factory, and it's just been tough. We've luckily found a factory now, but before it was hard to kind of even get anyone to take us seriously, because our production volumes are so small compared to what they want to to make it viable. And so, but we're determined we need to stick in there, because if we don't, then, as you say, it's not going to happen. If the small guys don't do it, then there's not going to be any change, and we can't afford to not change. I mean, even especially from an environmental perspective. So I started this whole kind of plant-based journey from a health perspective, which I think makes sense. Most people probably will when they think about, because we all start from kind of responding to our own selves, because we can see that and we can feel that, and then I started looking into the other benefits and with the vegan movement, especially because a lot of my clients are vegan, and I see there's the industry right now with the meat and dairy is very polluting and very resource intensive. And at the rate in which we're growing now, especially with Chinese rising middle class wanting kind of more red meat, and demand for more dairy, is just simply not sustainable for the environment. The amount of greenhouse gases, water, resources, land that is used for this sort of farming and production. So yeah, I wanted to create kind of these plant-based alternatives so that we can, hedge our consumption a little bit, and create kind of good tasting, nutritious food that people can just, it's a no-brainer to kind of choose that. And I'm not saying that, everybody must go vegan like now. I mean, realistically, even I can't do it immediately.
Sure.
But if we all just did this once a week or twice a week or, swapped it out, it's going to make a huge difference.
Well, and we talked about, of course, you being from New Zealand, which is, and you didn't know this about me, but people who've listened to the show regularly know this. I have friends and partners and some business interests down there in New Zealand as well, and that's kind of the third leg on my mental stool of where I base my efforts. So the fact is, it's so clean and pure, and you can have things that are healthily raised, cattle and what's the word I'm looking for? Responsibly tended crops and manufactured dairy. So it's interesting that coming to China, where you have more of a commercial food situation. It's just kind of crank out product. And in New Zealand, you really have an embarrassment of riches to where you could afford, you didn't have the health issues eating more of an omni diet.
Yeah. I mean, there's also, a thing where your body becomes acclimatized to the place where you live and as your home. I mentioned this before, but there's a saying in Chinese, 水土不服, which literally translates to the water in the earth is not aligned with your body. So when I came to China, having, especially coming from Queenstown to Beijing.
That's pretty big. That's a pretty big difference. Yeah.
A big difference.
Yeah.
Clean alpine lake resort town of 20,000 to a massive
23 million person megalopolis.
Exactly. So it was normal that my body kind of responded a little bit.
Had a little revolt.
Yeah, exactly. And so in these cases, it's really important to have these other kind of alternative choices so that you can reset and be clean and kind of. Yeah.
Well, I'm curious, how long did it take? And everybody's story is different, and let's just, you're not claiming to be a nutritionist or doctor. I'll give you all the appropriate qualifiers depending on where this airs. That we're not giving anybody medical advice.
No.
Least of all me. But I'm curious because as we were talking before, it's I know a lot of the reasons for this, but I've my own health and I've gained a bunch of weight. My eyesight's gone to hell. Part of this is aging. Part of it's some choices that I'm aware of. Part of it is part of it is environmental. And how long did it take you to sort of reset your gut, your own microbiome, and how what was your period from where you made some changes, or is it hard to track? I mean, it might have been very incremental. But was what was that like? What was the difference between I'm not in a good place to wow, I feel great? Because you're super great skin, right?
I mean, it's not
you're the picture of health sitting in front of me.
Thank you.
And you're describing someone who's very much
not healthy. So, it's actually a maintenance job. It's not something that you can just, flip a switch and then that's it. You're done for life, obviously. But there was definitely a very specific marked period. So I went to a whole bunch of doctors. I went to acupuncturists and Chinese doctors, spent a lot of money, and then Western doctors, international hospitals here as well. And then one time when I went home, I saw a local kind of family doctor who happens to be an eczema specialist, and he gave me this was the only kind of treatment that worked. But he gave me this this cream for kind of topical stuff. But what was really important was that he gave me a really comprehensive list of foods that I needed to avoid, and they included kind of inflammatory foods.
Right.
So what they are things that when you consume, like
nightshades and things like
correct,
this.
yeah, nightshades and stuff, and then also like soy, for example, is an inflammatory food,
Right.
and dairy is definitely an inflammatory food. So things that when you consume it increases the kind of mucus, levels in your body and inflames the gut, and also like it inhibits you from absorbing some other kind of really healing nutrients and important nutrients too. So I stuck on this diet for about 6 months, very strictly. So I had to learn a whole new way of cooking. I didn't really go out. It was horrible on the social life. But I used things like liquid aminos instead of soy sauce. And being in China, like not having soy.
Wow.
Was, making my own almond milk, and kind of also reducing a lot of things and being more mindful about my diet. So after 6 months, my skin I saw a huge difference. It really started to clear up. And then the other thing that was really important was exercise. So kind of getting, the blood pumping and kind of getting the whole system, working and that sort of thing. And it helps with energy levels and everything. So so then after that, it's still a continuous kind of maintenance sort of thing. But I, in retrospect, I'm really grateful that I had that happen to me, because I'd always been, I guess like I always tried to exercise, the required amount, like 3 times a week at the gym or something like that, or, 3 times, maybe twice. Or,
Because I can.
yeah. Or once, sometimes even. But, until my body was actually screaming for help, I didn't really slow down and have the chance to be mindful about, how I was treating my body and what I was eating and how I was resting and all of that. So it was even though at the time very, very distressing, because it was about at least 6 months of just not knowing how to fix myself. I mean, I had eczema, sores all over my arms and legs, and it was summer, and I had to wear long sleeves and pants, and sometimes on my face as well. And that's
rough.
horrible.
That's rough. Yeah.
Meetings and so really, it's maintenance as well.
Interesting. And so, how long ago was that you started making the switch? That was about.
Yeah, that was about 2015 was when this happened. So I came in about April 2014, and it kind of took about half a year to a year for all the bad things to accumulate, and I just was rock bottom, and and then had to kind of just stop everything and recalibrate my body.
Well, on a happier note, you're becoming the belle of the plant-based food ball here in Beijing with Yayo and Marvelous Foods. What are you working on currently with your company and your product line? What's sort of in store for you here in the future?
Yayo, we are currently, as I mentioned before, wanting to scale up into factory production. This would allow us to actually be able to expand to other parts in China. I mean, we're getting messages pretty much every day from people in Shanghai and Liaoning and Harbin asking, when can you deliver your product? We would really love it. So that's, we're working really hard to get there. We do need funding to get there as well. So we're currently hitting the fundraising trail.
You're going to San Francisco, right?
Yeah. I'm about to head off to, the Bay Area. There's a big gathering of mission-driven investors and vegan investors there for the Good Food Institute conference around clean meat and sustainable and plant-based meats. So I've got a few investor meetings lined up over there, and then also talking to investors in China and stuff like that as well. What we really want to do is once we get Yayo onto kind of that factory track, then we can start doing R&D and kind of move on to other products as well. Because the whole idea is that we've got this whole framework where we do our product kind of innovation step first and market testing. So we've been doing that with Yayo in the last couple of years, and until we get the recipe and the kind of feel of the product in a way that resonates with the market well, and then we can take it to factory production, and understand. By the time we kind of have done this with Yayo, we'll understand about the different kind of regulations, what we need to apply for, what was already there for different types of these foods, and then also delivery systems and distribution systems and stuff like that. And then also through Yayo, our marketing partners and distribution partners, we will then link other products into that too. So it's like this whole machine that we're building, beginning with Yayo, and then now Yayo is kind of our Iron Man, if you will, and our Marvel,
right, the center of the universe, yes.
And then the other kind of players can come in the form of the ice creams and cheeses and plant-based meats. Like we're already doing frozen yogurt with Yayo, with certain restaurants. We're about to launch a new kind of autumn menu of like different flavors with gung ho for our frozen yogurt, and we also helped them develop the vegan cheese initially using our yogurt as base as well. So we can the product is very versatile. We can use it to make kind of mozzarella like pizza cheese. It can also be made into a cream cheese sort of thing, so spreads and things like that. We also work with the likes of Arrow Brewing, to create kind of sauces for their vegan dishes. So it can be used as a sour cream substitute for sauces.
So you have kind of a base that you created that is your secret sauce, basically, and then you flavor it and texture it different ways.
Correct. Yeah, it can be. It's a very versatile product. Yeah, the texture and flavor can change with that base, and it's just we're very, very happy that feel very fortunate that we had this as our first kind of hero product. And really excited about the other things that can come. We'll create like kind of with our other products, or create kind of their own personas and stuff like that. As well, because Yayo, the name itself means coconut yogurt, for years, and yo for yogurt. So
that's really clever.
Yeah, thank you. It was fun. It was a good night of brainstorming.
Do you find that the Chinese folks resonate with that? Are you mostly hitting the expat market currently, or is it, and also like the internationally or plant-minded Chinese folks? But
it is both. I mean, we chose this name because it's understandable from both sides. I mean, definitely our initial customers were like kind of expats because of my own circles and stuff like that as well. But it has since really changed, and that's our aim too. We want all of our products to be things that kind of fit the Chinese palates and culinary culture and stuff like that. So we've got, I would say, about like at least 40% of our clients are Chinese now, whereas it was definitely not like that when we first started. Maybe only about 20% or 10% even. And they do get the name. Our Chinese name is Ye Yogurt, which literally means coconut yogurt. I think they like it too.
Awesome. Well, we will include links in the show notes for people to find out more information, but if you want to throw out a website or contact or any information like that with your voice, please feel free to do so.
Oh, yeah. So on WeChat, actually, because we're bootstrapped.
Sure.
Startup company. Sure. So we're focused on our WeChat efforts, and so our WeChat account is Yayo-yogurt. So you can look for that.
Excellent. I will include a link in the show notes. Thank you so much for coming by, Christiana. I wish you much success in San Francisco and the world.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
All right, that's the show this week. I hope that you enjoyed it. Don't forget to find out more about Christiana or Yayo, or contact her, or learn more about me or the show or the podcasting course or anything else. You can find all those links at the blog post, which is on crazyinagoodway.com. Thanks again for listening, and I'll see you next week.